Hello and welcome to Transformation Now. Hi, I'm Rita, rocker, speaker, author, trainer with SoaringHigher.rocks, and very happy to continue on a program that I've been doing today about a lot about career development, but also it's all about personal development. So I'm going to continue on that program, and I was talking about attitudes of the successful worker, but it's really attitudes of successful people in general. And so just to kind of go over the last couple points again from last time would be, I was talking actually about being in charge of your destiny, which we are by the decisions we make and deciding whether it's a good decision or a not so good decision. And so we I know there's a lot of other things that come into play with people, places, and things, but we are still in charge of what we do, how we act and react in every situation. And our attitude, because I've talked a lot lately about attitude, and that's really everything in how we handle the things that happen to us in our lives. I've had a very rough life and learned that attitude is so important to go forward and not stay stuck. So the next one was anything is impossible, and throughout my programs I've shared so many things about possibilities with people that didn't have arms, legs, were, removed from their own successful companies like Steve Jobs, so many things, but they succeeded, whether they had arms, legs, whether they had any education, whether they were removed, whether they were in prison, whatever the case may be. So really have that attitude of all things are possible, I say, for those who believe in him. And so that's my point. No task is too small to do well. I talked about several things where, sometimes we think, oh, this is too demeaning. I don't want to do this. I'm going to do a sloppy job because I don't want to do it. But no, when we do everything well, no matter how small the task, people notice, God notices, and you can really build yourself up from a small task to a large one. And I'm not saying this is small, but a friend of mine that I've mentioned before, when she got out of high school, she immediately went to work at a very large, reputable advertising agency that at the time was centered in Omaha, and she would travel all over and everything, but she never had 1 hour of college. And yet when she started out as a clerk, she ended up as vice president of media purchasing, which was a huge job. And so again, anything is possible, and no task is too small to do well, because you can build up from there. I was made to do this job and the one above me. So there again, you may start out in a job that you don't really like, but you see the possibilities and you're willing to work for that, to rise in that area and become the one, just like my friend did, that you really deserve to be and that you want to be, and where your heart and your mind really are. Another one is, it's not just what I know, but who I know. And sometimes it's unfortunate too, but who I know. So you want to get out and meet people and volunteer and join in all kinds of endeavors that can help you to grow and to learn and to meet people. Because I remember going to a dinner with some, it's called International Women's Group, with some ladies, and I met a teacher at a school that has a lot of poor kids, a lot of underprivileged kids. And because of just meeting her and sitting across from her at the table, I was able to get into that high school and really talk to the students about gender roles, but it had a lot to do with strength and respect, and it was very well received. And so I wasn't expecting to get that opportunity from just going to meet some ladies at a dinner, but those things can happen all the time. So then the next one is, well, what else can I do? It's like, oh, well, gosh, I'm not doing very much, and I don't like what I'm doing, and this is certainly nothing to, toot my horn over. But again, you're in charge of your destiny. And so it's your job to look to ways to improve yourself personally and professionally. And like I've talked many times, there are so many opportunities for you to do that, even on YouTube, and learning and programs and getting involved in your city, in any kind of government thing maybe you'd be interested in school, sports, whatever the case may be. So volunteer for an extra project. If there's a project that you want to volunteer for that will get you involved in schools, get you involved in any kind of training program, anything like that, do it. So number 7 was, what else can I do? Since you're in charge of your destiny, you can figure out different things that you can do personally and professionally. A lot of times it's volunteering for an extra project, whether it's at work or whether something that a church or a school or an organization needs, volunteer for that extra project. I recently volunteered and am working in a group that's actually gone global, but it's working with women in the areas of incarceration and addiction. It's all volunteer, but I knew that was something I needed to do. It would also broaden my contacts, but ways to really help those ladies and their kids that are going through such a hard time. So again, it doesn't have to be glamorous volunteering, but get involved in your community. Find out what's going on. And that's the best thing to do if you're shy and you can't go into a room of strangers and try to network. Me personally, I'd rather speak in front of 500 people than go into a room for networking with people I don't know. And so that's something, if you volunteer to be at a registration desk, to be where the refreshments are, something like that, you're involved, but you don't have to have quite the fear of just, what am I going to do? I'm just going to stand here and kind of with my drink and not know what to do. So get involved in a project like that. Stay late maybe to help a coworker or to help someone who is in need. Maybe you are a great house painter. I did a lot of painting inside and outside at one time. And so maybe you can volunteer to help someone when they need help painting. However, that person has a contact with someone else who's looking for a painter. So many things are accomplished through word of mouth. And so you can do something great for someone. You could be a mediator of kids' fights. You could do whatever your gift is. You could help people, like a lady I know who's very successful now. She started out helping family and friends with their finances, with their credit, trying to get their lives back in order financially. And now she has an extremely successful financial planning business, helping people to get their lives pulled back together in that area. And she's doing very, very well herself now, even though she had some years that were extremely rough, living with 3 kids in a car for a little while. So again, a lot of that is attitude. But she started out her success by helping people with the knowledge that she had in the area they needed, and it went from there. So think about that as well. So you can stay late, you can help people complete a job. You always want to be the team player. Then people are going to want you on their team. And that's when big opportunities take place. People don't want individuals on their team if they seem like they're cranky, if they're bored, if they're negative, but they do want team players. And that's what you want to be. So think about that. Maybe you created something really wonderful. It could be a new method of organization for a home or for a business, or maybe you had a new idea of some way to market something, and people are going, oh my gosh, can you do the same thing for me? Even though maybe you didn't start out doing that, but it could open a door to a whole new business for you if you do something like that. So learn skills and share skills, and I am a totally huge proponent of, it doesn't matter how old you are. The older people have an incredible amount of experience to share with the younger people who need it. The younger people, most of the time, are 5-year-olds, probably more technical than I am, but younger people have so much knowledge too in different areas, and especially in the tech environment. And so we should never judge people by, young whippersnapper, or too old to do anything, but let's get more involved in sharing our knowledge, our love, our abilities with everyone. And so that is so important. We learn from each other. We support each other, and that is really critical. Another one is, failure will help pave the way to my success. And sometimes it's easy to think, and I've done this, oh gosh, I have failed so many times. I have made a mess of so many things. Why bother? Why try anymore? I'm just going to sit here in my misery because at least I'm familiar with it, instead of trying, like Thomas Edison and his 1,000 tries with the light bulb, whatever. Michael Jordan being sent home in high school saying, well, you're never going to amount to anything. So he goes in his bedroom, shuts the door, cries. Michael Jordan, hello. And then like Einstein, who was told, I believe he was 4 years old, oh, this kid's not going to amount to anything. He can't even think straight. All right, so what happened there? Failure all brought them all to success. I could see, hundreds of stories that I read over the years of people who failed and then ended up very successful. Why? Because they wouldn't give up. They kept pursuing their goal, their dream, their desire, and building up the knowledge that they needed, the experience that they needed. And a lot of times we're put into a job that was like, oh gosh, why am I here? It's to learn certain skills or meet certain people. It's a step in the right direction to take you to the next level. So always think of it that way so you know that you're going to do your very best. But anyway, and sometimes we think, well, I really feel like I'm gifted in a particular area. Why am I not using it? That's when you really want to learn from mistakes and use those gifts, use those talents. And, think of people that are been through bankruptcies, especially if it's a few. Abraham Lincoln, was a typical or a very amazing story of 32 years of fighting to get where he wanted to go, where he was called to go. Sometimes we're called to something, whether it's a ministry, it's a particular job, a particular career, and it may take several years. It's like, okay, I'm going to give up. I don't get this. But you keep going because it's in your heart and it won't go away. We put things on the shelf in life sometimes, and it's like, oh, I want to do this in my life, and then life gets in the way, and it's like, okay, well, I guess I can't put it on the shelf. But then years later, you think about it, you see something that is connected to like that, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's still here. It's still here. That's your calling, because it won't go away. It's going to stay as a fire in your heart, in your mind, and it will not go away. So think about that. The next one is I am my own biggest fan. It's hard sometimes for some people to be their own biggest fan because they've been told all their life they're worthless, they're not going to make it. Who do you think you are? You come from this kind of family. How do you think you could do that? I remember watching something about a week ago, and it was really, really old. I think back in the 1980s, and it was Barbara Walters, who was the most famous female news person, and she was interviewing Dolly Parton, and she just kept making negative remarks. She kept, your kind of people, and things that were really rude to Dolly Parton, and how did she get where she is? And Dolly not once looked mad. She did not look sad. She did not look defeated. She turned every answer into something positive. Like it didn't bother her at all that she was being very meanly demeaned on TV. She just kept going. And so it's just like she just showed Barbara, hey, you can cut me down as much as you want and make me look like some little country bumpkin, but I know who I am. And she let her know. She knew who she was and that she was worth it and she was making a difference. And I'll tell you what, I don't care how old that was, I was really proud of her for sticking up for herself in front of Lord knows how many thousands of people that were watching that program. So I'll always remember that. I felt unworthy and sabotaged myself most of my life. And you know what? That's not what God wants for us. We're his kids. We're made in his image. How much more precious and valuable could we be? I mean, really. So you think about that, being your own business fan. And sometimes we kind of have to, they call it toot your own horn. Well, that sounds kind of silly. That's an old term. But it's kind of like, if nobody's really letting people know your skills and abilities, then you might have to do it too. And that doesn't mean bragging, oh, look what I did. Because sometimes you'll see people that are very much braggarts and they're patting themselves on the shoulder. But actually, it's because usually there's an inferiority complex underneath that. So they have to build themselves up, but also criticize everybody else to make themselves look better and the other people look not so good. So think about that too. and we have to be very careful about. But talk about your accomplishments and what they've done that have helped people. You know, different positive ways that you've impacted someone's life. You know, I did whatever it was, you know, when you're talking to someone new and you could say, you know, I really helped people with their checkbooks and their finances because I knew these people were struggling. And now they're out of debt. They're having, you know, a great life going forward. And I would be happy to do the same thing for you. Or, you know, I was able to get on a team to help the coaches. I loved the sport. I loved being able to coach kids. When I would see kids that were having a really tough time, and I could tell their home lives were really tough, and it was showing up in how they weren't able to participate in the sports because they were feeling unworthy. They were feeling like they didn't have any talent. And it blessed me so much to be able to coach these kids. I could spot them because I was watching for it. And then I was able to help those kids build up their confidence, and now they're good at sports. If that sounds like something you would like me to do and work with your son or your daughter or with you, let me know. I would love to help. And so you can do it that way. You can tell them about something that you did and what the benefit was, and that you would do the same thing for them: finances, coaching, music, dance, pageantry, you know, whatever the case is. And so think of ways you can toot your own horn, but in a very positive way. People are drawn to that. They're not drawn to people who are braggarts, but they are drawn to people who have a good heart, and they've created so many things. They've created new products, they've created new programs that are impacting other people's lives. So even a simple product, and I know I mentioned this one time a long time ago when I was at a doctor's office, and this couple came in and they were both dressed, male and female. They were dressed in suits, just so professional, so professional. And everybody was so excited to see them in the doctor's office, and I'm thinking, what in the world? What kind of product do they have? What are they peddling? Silly word, but what, you know, that's what I was thinking. And then it was like, it was chocolates. They had some divine kind of chocolate gourmet that they had created, and they were going around even at doctor's offices and places like that offering their products. They had obviously been there before. And so they did this, and I'm just astounded. I thought, my gosh, look at the professional appearance. They were quite the professional brand. They knew they had an excellent product, and they were going to definitely brag on it, and they did. I thought, you know what, if you can do that with chocolates, certainly you can do that with all of the skills, talents, and abilities that you have to offer other people. And it could be, you know, even in law enforcement, sometimes you learn how to defend yourself. And so you see kids that are bullied, and you could teach them how to defend themselves in the proper way. So there's so many areas that you could go into. Use your skills and abilities. What's in your heart to help other people? And a lot of times, you know, we get tired and we get discouraged, and we think, oh gosh, you know, my opportunities are gone. Look how old I am. I can't even talk to anybody about it anymore because they're wondering why I spent all these years not doing it. And now it's like, so now you're going to start when you're 60, 70, 80, whatever the case may be. And no, never turn off your opportunity monitor, okay? Because it's always out there. I remember talking to a lady I'd been speaking to a women's group up in South Dakota, and she says, well, you know, I'm 74. I don't really have anything to offer anybody anymore. And she was really down on herself. And I said, you know what? I said, you have a lifetime of valuable experiences that you could share with younger people, with other people. Use all those experiences, what you've learned in handling situations and making things and in your whole life in business and family. You have a lot. Please don't ever think you're too old or you've missed the boat and you can't do anything, because that is just wrong. Always use your experiences and your talents. When you see, you know, stories of 65-year-old people learning how to fly a plane. And, there was one guy I saw recently, I think he was, what was he, like 95 or something like that. And he was hooked to a parachutist and down they went. And that was his desire. I guess at one time when he was younger in the war, he did that. But it was just such a delight for him. So, experience those things that you want to experience. And, if you have to pray for them, but they're there. So keep your eyes, ears, and mind open for new opportunities. And when discouragement tries to kick you in the backside, say, no, this is my heart. These are my gifts. This is my desire, and I'm going for it, so shut up. And I do that, okay? So you never know when you're going to discover something new. Just by going out somewhere and bam, something hits, and it's the right thing for you. It's the right person that you meet to possibly change your life. So always do that. And then when you do meet an opportunity, you have to stop then and say, is this good for me? Is this good for my family? If you have a family that it involves. Or is this going to distract me from what I need to do? Because it's really not the thing you've been called to do, but you want to do. Is it going to distract me? Is it going to connect me with the wrong kind of people? Are they going to pull me the wrong way? As I'm working in this ministry, and talking to these women about addictions, that's what happens. A lot of times they get triggered by something, and what do? They run back to what's familiar, what will numb the pain. And then it becomes very destructive again. So always ask yourself, is this good for me or not? Shall I do this or not? What are the benefits, and then what is detrimental to it? But always ask yourself that, and use discernment in, is this a good thing or not a good thing? Because a lot of times we'll have people say, oh yeah, you ought to do that, but then you stop and think, is this really good for me? It's like, no, it's going to cost a lot of money, or it's going to take time away from my family that I need, whatever the case may be. Always ask yourself that question, is this good or not? And be honest with yourself in what's beneficial and what's not. So, how will this change the course of my life? Especially big decisions, always ask yourself, how is this going to change the course of my life? And you just sit quietly and you think about it. It's like, ooh, okay, maybe I better not do this after all, and move on the other direction. So those are some things that are helpful hints about just who we are and moving forward. And then smart things that job seekers do. I have a lot of programs on job seeking, resumes, interviewing, professional development of all types, your manners, your etiquette. And so you can always look up soaringhigher.rocks if you're interested in that. But smart things that people do, I worked in human resources for many years, and then I worked with a Chamber of Commerce for many years with project management. And so that really helped me to really watch people, see what they do, what made them successful or not so successful. And just because we are a brand, and people are going to look at us as a particular brand. And I remember a time, I shared this once a long time ago too, that when I went into a technical school, it's not here now, but I was giving a program, and it was something through a business association. And when I went to the front desk, the young lady who was at the front desk, the only one that was in the area, had a dress where she was almost completely hanging out of her dress. She just looked at me, and I asked her where this particular room was, because I'd never been there before. She got up without saying a word, not welcome, nothing, and she left, and she was gone for probably 3 minutes. And I thought, what the world is going on? So then I got up and actually tried to kind of look down the hallway to where she was. And then she finally came back and says, oh, well, it's up here and around the corner, da-da-da-da. And I thought, really? What a bad brand, a bad reputation she was giving the school because of some really terrible manners. And so we always want to realize the potential, and we want to be careful of that. I'm sure she was not going to be able to move herself up in the company because of not representing the company really in any professional way. So tell everyone you know about your career goals. And again, I'll kind of correct that. Tell everyone who would be there to support you, to encourage you about your career goals. But people who are just going to say, "No, why would you want to do that? You don't have the talent for that." You don't talk to them about it. You just move forward, when you're around them and being quiet. But in getting your foot in the door. So it's no naysayers, but it's the ones that can help you, push you forward. Things like LinkedIn, Alignable, those are very good places to look for career opportunities. So always think of that. Get on there, start looking for jobs, start looking at careers, put in keywords. Keywords are everything, because when a lot of the larger companies use like a reader, and it will look for keywords that they're looking for in sales and marketing, in finance, and if you don't have those in your resume, those keywords they're looking for, it dumps it out, and a human being won't even see it. So think about that. I'll continue on from here in the next program, and I wish you all the best. See you soon.